Whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mākinakina ki uta, kia mātaratara ki tai, e hiaki ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, tihei, mauri ora.
Thanks, Rachel. All right, so before we jump in with how we can use Google Workspace in mathematics, for those who haven't met me, by the way, I'm Donna Golightly, and that was Rachel Duckworth who just did the beautiful karakia for us, and Juliet will introduce herself in a moment. We don't have Carla tonight. She has gone to 6 with her daughter, which is super exciting. But before we start, just thinking about mathematics, whatever we use, I just kind of like to think that we need to start from this perspective here, about thinking about the engagement of mathematics. So it's not just using our device with our students, but are we actually using our device to engage our students? And we need them to have all 3 of these things. This is Catherine Atwood's Catherine Attard's research that tells us that our students have to be cognitively engaged, so they have to be thinking hard, they have to be working hard, and they have to be feeling good about what they're doing in order to be actually engaged with mathematics. So let's have a look at how we could do that. I'm going to hand over to Juliet, and she's going to introduce our first contributor, and thank you, Andrew, for contributing this evening. Juliet, are you there? Or are you muted?
I
Andrew's
can't
ready
see
to go.
Serena. Where's she gone?
Has she gone?
I'm here.
Oh, there we go.
Hi, let's start that again. I'm Juliet, and I'm introducing Andrew, who is a marvellous deputy principal in Queenstown at Liger. Is it, Andrew?
Liger.
Liger.
Cross between a lion and a tiger.
Right. So in a leadership academy there, coming from a career which has spanned the globe, from teaching in Tauranga to leadership positions in private international schools in Kuwait and Shanghai. 12 years of experience at Tauranga Boys College, we thought we would let in a secondary school teacher to take the floor this evening. So I'll hand it over to you, Andrew.
Well, thank you very much, Juliet. That was a very wonderful introduction. I wasn't expecting that. Now I feel a little bit positively bullied by you, because I did sort of mention that maybe I can contribute something, and then I got a follow-up email from you saying, can you contribute something, which I ignored. And then when I got the second email, I was like, okay, I really need to put something in here. So I haven't actually taught maths for a couple of years now. So down here at Liger, it's mainly project-based learning. And we do have a maths specialist. So I just thought this might be useful for some teachers out there just using a Google site to repackage a resource with a bunch of things to make it easy for learners to access the task. So this was actually, you created this in the days before AI. So that seemed like a very, very long time ago. But yeah, just a real simple probability experiment. And so rather than having a kid with a worksheet and then click on a link on their device to get to the virtual experiment and then have another bit of paper to record the results, just put all those things on a Google site. Obviously you can add text, you can embed a Google form, and the actual virtual tail flipper, if a kid didn't have their own coin, that's just an embed that found somewhere on the internet. So that's embedded as an iframe. And I will pop that link in the chat after I finish talking, and just further down, there's actually the resultant graph. So embedded, so the form the kids would put in their results, that fed into a Google spreadsheet. We made a nice line graph out of that, and you can see as you do more and more experiments, you get closer to that theoretical probability. So yeah, just one example of how you can use sites to package some of your maths resources.
That is very cool, Andrew. Thank you. Actually, sites is something we talked about last time, that we often sort of forget about using sites. And yet there's some really cool ways that we can use them. I've also just dropped the link to the slide deck into the chat if anybody wants to be able to follow along on the slide deck. And I think your image is linked, is it, Andrew, to your
It is.
that website?
Yep, and I've just popped that
Yep.
link in the chat as well. So yep, feel free to see what a maths teacher 4 years ago used to do.
I love that before AI. It's kind of like before COVID, after COVID. It's like now we have before AI and after AI. Those defining moments in time. All right, thanks, Andrew. That was awesome. I'll hand back over to Juliet, and she's going to introduce Amber.
Okay, and we have the mic on this time. So Amber is the wizard of all things innovation and tech at Waipokoro School, where she leads with creativity, curiosity, and a passion for future-focused learning. So she's the team leader there, and I will hand over to you now.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much, Juliet. That was very kind. Please forgive me. I've just come off of the back of a parent meeting for camp. We're off to camp next week, so I'm going to make this brief. We are using Timetables Rockstars in our school, and it was a Kahuiako initiative. And I've been using it in my class for a couple years now, and I'm finding it quite enjoyable for the kids. It's a quick 15-minute a day activity that we do. And it's very gamified. It's very engaging, bright. There's a store that the kids can go to because they can earn money through each of their activities. There's a paywall attached to it, but if you want to get the kids learning, I teach year 5, 6, and learning times tables has always been a mission. It is a lot of rote learning, but it's quite engaging for our students, and we find across the school, kids are a lot more engaged with their times tables. And I am not, can somebody go to the next slide? Here, I have put in a heat map of my class over the last year and a half, and it just shows how kids are grasping it and they are retaining some of it. And it goes back to that a bit of research with the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve for that retrieval and space practice, because we're doing it regularly and often. There are digital manipulatives on it, and this year I have introduced the booklets that go along with it, and I'm finding a lot of success and a lot of talk with the students about the relationship between times tables problems. And the man that invented it, Bruno Mars, is actually, you can find him on Facebook. He's doing a tour of New Zealand and upskilling teachers in it. And this is how I incorporate it in my, if you go to the next slide, I just have it as part of my task board for math. We have, a Google slide full of tasks, and once they finish their must-dos, they get to hop on there and rock out to some times tables. There's music that they can listen to as they're doing it. So it's, they love it. And each term we do syndicate competitions, and next term our Kahuiako has organized school competitions, and kids can actually play in competitions. I think one just closed against students across the world, and there's one called New Zealand Rocks, which will come up. It could be next term too, I don't know. But it's quite engaging. It's definitely I think it's about $9 a student, but it's definitely worth it if you're interested in finding a way to engage kids in times tables. And just on that note, I know there's a lot of unpacking of the new curriculum, but I've popped in some links on the bottom there of some kind of tried and true sites that I use. There's a list of move improves, which it's all set out on an Excel sheet, and it's a great way to get the kids. You can look at it in your time, but it's a great way to get the kids to kind of get a informative or informal way to assess their understanding of the concept before you dive into it. The Meaningful Maths is the old NZ math site that Australia has adopted. And then DIMIC has also put out some conceptual starters on their page, and all of their resources are free, which offer a lot of rich tasks, which I saw was farther down in the columns. And then just one plug for good old Caxton Education, which has the NZCM maths books. I think they've remapped their curriculum. Well, they've remapped their books based on the new curriculum. So, and they're coming out with new stuff each day. And I just, there's a lot of different programs coming out with the Prime and the Oxford Math and Numicon and all that. And I just think some of those old ones are still quite meaningful, and there's a lot of good content in there. So I've just linked them in if you want to have a look. Thanks.
It's awesome. Thanks, Amber. If somebody wanted to investigate the timetable rocks, is the easiest thing just to Google it to find out?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
I have linked, I think it's linked in I think it's linked on that first slide, and it should take you to the TTRS site.
Awesome. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Amber before we move on? No, good job, Amber. Thank you for sharing that. That sounds really like your kids really love it. We're just going to quickly go through a few other ways that you can use the Google Workspace tools in your mathematics program. So one of the things that I use a lot with my kids are these Google Sheets that become self-marking. So the good old, you put the answer in. If the answer is correct, a part of an image appears. If part of an image doesn't appear, then you didn't get the answer correct, and you have to go back and give it another go. For some of the more complicated problems, I get my kids to do the working out in their book, so that I've actually got evidence of their thinking, and they've got evidence of the strategies that they used. And otherwise, they can just do it in their head. And the image that's linked is actually linked to a folder that I've shared with, they're not mine, they're definitely not mine. They're just a curation of ones that I've come across over the years. And so it's a really good, cool way to use Google Sheets. And then the next extension from that is getting the kids to make their own. And of course, they learn lots of things about formulas and conditional formatting and all that. And the kind of put the answer in, a picture appears. I'll find the name of the guy. There's a guy, I think it's Steve Bush, something like that, who does some absolutely amazingly creative ones that he sometimes shares free. A lot of the time he wants you to pay for them, but they're really cool as well. Google Sheets is another way. These images are all linked, by the way. These are all Maths Edu protocols. So if you've been following the Edu protocol kind of community and the community that's growing there, these are all maths ones, and they are mostly sort of warm-up ones that you can use for daily routines, but all done with Google Sheets. So just a nice way to use Google Sheets there. Don't reinvent the wheel, reuse something. And I use Google Sheets a lot for gathering evidence. So I've created some, again, that image is linked, where the kids play the games, but within the game, there is a scaffold for them to record their thinking or to upload images of how they've worked it out in their books. Because often when kids are playing a game, I'm working with someone else and I've got no idea whether they're actually playing the game properly, whether they're actually doing the work, whether they're just, off task, shall we say. And so I found that once I started giving them space for scaffold to put their evidence, their playing games became much more meaningful and they were much more engaged in it. And I did that all just using Google Sheets. And then Peer Deck. Is anyone a Peer Deck user? Give me a thumbs up if you're a Peer Deck user. Peer Deck, excellent. Thank you, Rachel and Julie. A couple of people use Peer Deck. I can't recommend the Flashcard Factory enough. And you can use, it's kind of like Nearpod, Michael, but the really cool thing about this one is the Flashcard Factory can be used for any level. So you could use it with 5-year-olds, you could use it with 13-year-olds. And what it does is you put in the vocab that you want, and then when the students log in, it automatically splits them into 2 teams. And then within the 2 teams, it splits them into pairs, and they have no say over it and it can't be changed. So they get to be social learn to work with lots of other people. And then it throws them up one of the words that you put in. And one person has to write the meaning and the other person has to do a drawing for it. And then when they're happy with their word definition and they're happy with their image, they ship it and it goes onto a truck. And to start with, my kids were like, they'd finish the image and they'd ship it, but their partner hadn't finished writing. And so their card got rejected because it didn't have a complete definition. So when all the peers have shipped all their cards, it goes to the factory and then you can accept or reject. And so together as a class, we accept or reject them till you get a final set of vocab cards. And then you can push those vocab cards into GEGNZ and they can play a game with them. And it's been one of the most engaging. The kids keep asking, can we do that flashcard factory? And so, like, I tend to not let them do it very often because the novelty would wear off. But when I do it, complete engagement from the class. They just absolutely love it. And in fact, one of them said to me today, oh, that's the word that we used in the flashcard factory. So they start to remember that vocab. And it does have AI built into it. So you can use AI to produce the definitions. It'll write the definitions for you if you want it to. So if you haven't done that before, maybe give that a go. And of course, it uses Google Slides, which was my connection. Now, we did have one of our Google champions has popped this in. Has anyone used Equatio? Right, so Equatio is a Chrome extension that allows you to do mathematical writing in Google Slides. And so often, like, one of the things that people struggle with is fractions, for example, and it writes fractions beautifully. And she's popped in there. You can see some images of the different tools that they have. It is a paid feature, but you can have a trial. And she has put some information in the speaker notes about if you wanted to explore that and have a look at the trial. And I think she put, over here, just some information what it looks like. So you can see it pops up a bar down at the bottom. And there's lots and lots of ways. It works on Google Forms as well. So that might be something that you want to explore. And if you are a Google Champion, you can get a premium subscription for yourself from the Google Champion Hub. Anybody want to speak to this? I've just thrown lots of stuff at you in like 5 minutes flat. Any questions about what we've just gone through? All right, cool. All right. So these are the questions that came up from people. People asked about sites that have online quizzes. So each of these is going to link to a slide that will just give us some information. So sites that have online manipulators, each of these images are linked. Polypad is amazing. This one over here on the left. If you only ever wanted to use one site, I would recommend Polypad. It used to be a standalone. It was used to be Mathagon, but it's been bought. I can never remember which way around. Rachel, do you know? Did Amplify buy Desmos or Desmos bought Amplify?
No idea. Sorry. I can't help
Does anyone
you.
know the correct answer to that? Anyway,
Doesn't matter. Amplifies. I mean, Polypad's amazing.
Yeah, there's a company called Amplify and there's a company called Desmos, and one owns the other. Desmos is a bit. I think you're right, Michael. And so now it's owned by them. So now to use it, your students log into Amplify, but it's just got every kind of manipulative that you want. And then there are linked a few others there as well. And these ones here, also math manipulators for Chromebooks, amazing math manipulators as well. And these ones, as a teacher, you can create a rich task on it, and then it generates a specific link. So when you share that specific link with students, they get that manipulative with the task already loaded into it, which is quite cool. And then somebody asked for, they were just looking for rich maths tasks. So we've linked in here New Zealand, of course. This one here, Joe Knox and Marie Hurst put this together. When NZ Maths moved to Taharangi, they created I think it's a Google Doc, and they've just linked a lot of the rich tasks and a lot of the problem solving tasks in one place so that you don't have to go surfing through Taharangi. So that's quite a good document just to hold on to there. Oh, thanks, Michael. Amplify bought Desmos. I knew it was one way around. And then these other ones just link you to some rich tasks and some other sites. All of them are linked that have some really good things. This one here is quite interesting. It maps the Australian curriculum to the Enrich activities, but it's a really cool way to actually find specific Enrich activities if you're looking. And then if you've got younger learners, these ones are quite good. Steve Wyborny, his Splat site is amazing. And Rachel, oh no, and one more. We'll get to yours, Rachel. Somebody asked about ideas for times table practice. So we've linked some places that you can go. I've linked a Google Doc here, which is an activity I do endlessly with my kids and they love it. And it's just using Google Sheets, rolling dice and creating arrays. But the first one to fill the array completely becomes the winner. And the whole thing about Sheets is that you can choose your array to be any size. It doesn't have to be 10 by 10. It can be 10 by 15. It can be whatever you want it to be. And I had to put polymath. Has anyone used polymath? Because it was created by 2 ex-pupils from our school a couple of years ago. And while they were creating it, they got my class to trial it for them. And so my kids have had a lot of input and have given a lot of feedback to the development of polymath and the way that it's they've built their tool. So it's another one that's for learning basic facts, but you might want to explore that completely free, which is good with that one. Student choice, making choice boards, of course, on Google Docs is a great way to use your Google Workspace tools, but also just, again, giving that instant feedback. So this one is a Google Doc. It has 3 levels of tasks, so the students can choose their own task. They do the working out, and then they just delete the shape off the top and the correct answers underneath. So they can just get that, you don't have to mark it as such. They get that instant feedback. Rachel, where did yours disappear to? Oh, 23. I'm going to go straight to there. Rachel's going to talk to this one because these are some great places for maths tasks as well.
You could just keep going, Donna, all night. So I've just put a whole lot of links on here that I have used myself in the past, and also some new ones that I have discovered just recently. I used to use Jenny Ether quite a lot back in the day, and she had a beautiful literacy website as well, but that disappeared. But there's a maths dictionary there. Same but different math. All of these are fantastic, and I just encourage you to go and explore. There's some really cool estimations there. SD Mysteries I really, really love because it gives you some hints and tips, and the kids that think that it's quite mysterious and they've got to use clues. Information is beautiful. You can use from babies all the way through to secondary school. So it gives you a lot of different data sets in the way that data can be presented, and lots of conversations in and around that. The WODB square up in the top right hand corner is talking math with your kids, and that is which one doesn't belong. So it gives you kind of like 4 images, and you can have really open and rich discussions about why you think which one doesn't belong, and justify your reasoning for that. And then another couple, Math Before Bed and Math for Love, are just some. Math Before Bed you can obviously use at home with your own children if you have your own children, and I recommend that to parents as well quite often, but you can also use that in the classroom. So click on the links. They're all linked, all those images, and have a little play, and that's about it. If I missed anything, Donna, that you want to add to? What else have I've forgotten which ones I've talked about now.
Yeah, playing is the best thing, eh? It's just literally getting in there and having a go.
Yeah.
Thank you for dropping those in, Rachel.
That's right.
There are just a couple of other, somebody asked about AI. One of the questions was about AI and how could they use AI other than a maths tutor. So this is just a couple of examples of things that we've done. Again, this is linked. This was the instruction for the activity where we used Google Sheets and the kids created their own pixel type avatars, and the idea was working out perimeter and area. So they soon worked out that the simpler they made it, the easier it was to work out the perimeter and area. So there was a bit of strategic thinking going on. But again, when you think about that engagement factor, like were the students actually engaged in this task, they were, like they loved what they were doing, they were thinking critically, they were on task, and they had to think mathematically. So they created the avatar, but then what we did was we used AI to animate their avatar. And once they saw the first couple of kids get finished and animate them, it just really spurred the others on to get finished. And then what one student did was he took 3 or 4 of the animated avatars and he created his own little movie out of it. So you can kind of take it as far or as, you know, as least as you want it to go. But that was one way we used AI. Also used AI to write a pick a path story. So it's a fraction story, all about fractions, but it's a Kiwi story and it's a bit of a pick a path. And so they can choose the way that they want to go. They can do it 3 or 4 times and they're just doing maths fractions the whole time. But you could get AI to write any kind of pick a path for you. And then to involve the students, what I did was I actually ended up getting them to generate some of the images, and they had to use mathematical vocabulary in their description to get their image, which was quite fun. And of course, you could use AI to ask it to give you some incorrect math solutions, and then the kids have got to find out and what's wrong and why and reason and all that kind of thing. So it's just a few ideas on AI. Anyone else got some ideas on how they've used AI other than just as a math tutor? No. Okay. And then, oops, go forward, not backwards. We're not going to play those. There we go. Desmos, which is what we talked about before, about Amplify buying Desmos. If you are looking for an online tool, so not necessarily connected to your Google Workspace, but I have used it a couple of times. Oh, awesome, Andrews, use AI to create data sets for stat lessons. That's a great idea. I highly recommend exploring Desmos because it's got a whole lot of free collections inside it. There's a really great one on maths and music. And if you've got secondary school students, it takes the fractions, it uses the polypad fractions because a lot of the manipulatives in polypad will also play music. And then you can create these amazing musical tunes with these really complicated fractions. And yeah, just amazing stuff. And it's all free. So definitely recommend checking out the collections in there. And of course, you can make your own as well. It's free for you to build your own activities. And of course, the polypad virtual manipulatives, we've spoken about that, are all in there as well. So that is a lot to think about. That's all our, look at, we did that, ladies, in 30 minutes. How was that? Perfect. That is a lot of stuff thrown at you, but you've got the link to the slides and you can go away and just unpack and take one thing and have a play with it. Maybe explore a new site, try something new and come back and dive into the slides again when you're ready. Rachel, what was your comment? Used AI to create rich tasks using the new teaching sequence statements in the curriculum. The soul charge principles of year 0 to 8. Another great idea of how to use it. So I'm going to hand over to Steve and he's going to go through the updates for us. Steve, I'll just make you
co-presenter. Sweet as, thank you. Look, mute yourself as well. Fantastic. I'll get hopefully a little notification any minute. Yeah, there I go. So great thing about co-presenter on Meet is that I get the little slide control-y bit, which is quite nice, and I can read speaker notes if I had any, but I don't. So look, I wasn't going to do many updates, but then a whole lot of stuff happened basically last night and yesterday in the world of course AI. So I'm going to keep it to 3 minutes because I realize we're at 2 minutes past now. Recent update to the Gemini app. So that's gemini.google.com, is that it is a core service. So it is covered by your Google for Education terms of service. If you have Workspace Plus or Education Standard, sorry, Donna. And so you don't actually need to get any other sign off because it's a core service now, so it's governed by everything else. 13 Plus is available, obviously. And no one's reviewed by anybody else, doesn't go and train the model, the data goes nowhere. So up the top there is a link to some of that stuff there. Two really cool updates that dropped in about a week ago. On the left-hand side, you can tell Gemini, so this is the free no-cost Gemini, to create me 5 recipes for a low-carb, high-protein lunch and send them to my Google Keep along with the recipes. And that's my little laser pointer. There we are. Come on, laser point. Then on this one here, it can flick it over to my Google Keep, and it will appear in there, or tasks, or it'll flick stuff to my Gmail. So the integration between the free one and those apps is there now. On the right-hand side, I can ask Gemini about a file on my drive. So I've asked it to summarize this slide deck in my drive, which is agricultural diffusion from IB Geography. And it's simply read the slide deck and then given me a bullet-pointed summary. So the free Gemini now will integrate with apps, with extensions, plus inside your drive as well. But then this happened. We released something called Deep Research just recently. Deep Research, up on the top right, there is a nice little YouTube clip about it. What it basically does, it gives you a research assistant. So I've asked it to do a deep research on Gemini Gems. And what it does is it gives you a whole lot of outlines. It says, I'm going to research all this stuff for you. And then it goes away and finds all the information. Then it comes back. And Michael, it's nice to see it finally released. We've been playing there for about 6 months now, so it's been great. So what it does is it goes away, looks at all that stuff, brings it all back to you. It'll put it into slide decks. It'll put it into sheets. It'll put it into docs. It'll give you all the stuff where it came from. And then it'll basically say, do you want to know any more? And so I'll produce you this research report. I did one today. I said, you're a school in Auckland looking for funding streams for STEM and for sports teams. Go and find me all the application locations, the process to apply, the links to the applications, and whether or not it applies to sport or STEM. It took about 3 minutes. It came back with about 14 different places I could go and apply with the application forms, with the links to how to submit them as well. So really nice little free update sitting in Gemini Deep Research. Give it a whirl. It's pretty mind-blowing, to be honest. So the dude at the top there talks about it. He's one of our designers who built it. Next thing, Gems. Gems are the build your own little assistant. They have been in the paid version of Gemini for quite some time. They are now free to anybody. So you can build your own gems. Gems will allow you to create your own little assistant. It'll also allow you to add things from your drive, add documents, add links in the web. So now when you're on Gemini, head over to the left-hand side, Gem Manager, and you'll see your gems sitting in there. You can create your own. There are a whole lot of more things coming, but I wanted to keep it to a really short update, even though I know that was a lot. The last thing I will talk about tonight is not these YouTube clips, because you can go back and read them yourselves, is the Google Vids Education Film Festival. So, oh, nice, Michael. Brilliant. Now, a nice thing, gems are not yet shareable. However, if you grab the instructions, chuck them on a doc, you can flick them off to the group and everybody can have a go with those as well. So nice way to share your gems. So the Google Vids Education Film Festival has just been announced. It's run by our mate Andy Caffey at Canopy. If you have got your kids using Vids, which is available in WorkSpace for Education Plus schools, it's just in your drive. A collaborative video creation tool. We now have a film festival where your kids can, or you can create a little film. Sorry, Donna. Can create a little film, not yet, and send it in for judging. And there will also be some information coming to champions about this very, very soon. So if you haven't seen Vids, have a look, vids.new. If you haven't seen the film festival, there is a link there, googlevidsfilmfestival.com. Sorry, that was more than 3 minutes because I got too excited.
It's very exciting, Steve. Thank you. I have a theory about Vids. Just watch this space.
Okay.
Awesome. So we really appreciate you attending, but we would really love your feedback as well, because it helps us to build better each time. And, you know, the old saying, do better until you know better and then do better. So we would really welcome your feedback. And of course, your name will go into our spinner and Steve will give away some of that swag that he has secreted away in his cupboard. So if you wouldn't mind, we'll give you a couple of minutes to fill it in, and then we will pop your names in a spinner and give away a bit of swag. So we'll just give you a couple of minutes to do that. And maybe while people are doing that, Steve, is there anything else that you wanted to just briefly touch base on, maybe mention while people are filling it out and they can listen and write at the same time? No, but you might be on mute there, Steve. No, you're just pretending.
I've got a question for you, Steve-O.
Okay, go on, give me a question. I wasn't going to talk, but give me a question. Go on.
In my
No.
Gemini, next to deep research, I've got Canvas.
Yes, you do indeed. So Canvas is there as well. Canvas is a way to interact with Gemini. It is really for those of you who want to have a look at some coding or app building. You can give Gemini a natural language request. So make me a tic-tac-toe game, and it will do the code and it will preview it for you. I did one earlier today asking for, just because I was completely nerding out, can you make me an apps script to integrate with AppScript and Google Classroom, and especially the Google Classroom API. What it did was it gave me all the script for it. I then went back and prompted it a couple of times. It's recreated all the code for me, and I can basically run that in AppScript now if I want to. So it's a very interesting little piece. I have been having a good play with it, but I think it's one of those things that is super complicated. So maybe leave that for a little bit if you want to.
I was going to say, sounds like it's not for me then, just today.
Hey, and just I was talking, I'm just going to jump on here real quickly. Everyone's filling that in, Donna, and I'm just going to show you this. This is the output I got from deep research around the funding application. So the prompt was simply this. At the top there, can you please create me a list of local grants available to state schools in Auckland, New Zealand, who are looking for supports both STEM and sports groups? It gives me, hey, this is what I'm going to do. Shall I go do it? I'm like, yep. And on the right-hand side, this is the output. So it's all what the grants are. Then it's given me a link to a sheet of all of them. Then a few bits of information about how to apply. Then some links where it got all the information. So it is basically a giant... yeah, sure, no problem at all. Let me grab this. So it's basically your research assistant, and it will go out and do a whole pile of research for you. The reading I've been doing around it, you know, people have said this is the sort of stuff you'll spend a long time doing, looking for information, curating information, trying to find stuff, whereas this will automate it and go away. It will give you some feedback and say, hey, I'm going to do this. Is that right? If you go, no, actually, I meant this. Then you can basically re-prompt it and change what's in the middle there. So lots of really cool things happening in that space. Remembering when you are using your Gemini, make sure you've got that nice little shield down the bottom, which means you're using a school account, which means you have enterprise data protection on there. So this is my school account I've got. You're ready to spin on it.
All right. We have 5 names. So Steve, should we just give away one today? Or do you want to give away 2?
No, one's let's give away 3.
3. Oh, good odds, people. Good
There
odds.
are way more people in here than 5.
There are.
Anyway.
Okay, so I've got Michael, Glenn, Renee, Nicole, and Amber. Has anyone else filled it out before we spin? Drop it in the chat if you've actually filled it out and I didn't call out your name.
We've missed some people.
Oh, Rachel has. All right, I'll add you in, Rachel. I feel like I'm in the class doing the school roll.
We should have Sarah, Renee, Rachel, Nicole.
So I've got Michael, Glenn, Renee, Nicole, Amber, Rachel, Sarah.
There you go.
So, Hayley thinks she did. All right, we'll add you in, Hayley. Okay, 3's a good number now.
Again, Hayley, you'll have 2 lots in the mail to you.
You just need to stop presenting, Steve, or Donna kick him back off.
I'll stop. Ready? Stop.
Okay, so we're going to do it on screen. All right.
Of course.
So present something else. Present my window, because then you can see here. I think I've done the right one. I'm not showing you our farm trip today. Are you seeing the wheel of names? Okay.
Yes, we are.
Alrighty. Here we go. Whoops, we'll hide the names. All right. So the first, oh my gosh, Michael, how many times?
3 in a row. 3 in a row.
Yeah, it must be. You should come buy a lotto ticket, Michael. All right, Michael. It's 1. 2 is
Screenshot.
Sarah. Sarah. And 3 is
Yay!
Amber.
Look at that. I love it.
Well done. Cool, you guys. I'm going to
Congratulations,
stop
everyone.
presenting. I will just stop the recording there. I just realized it was still recording, and stop the transcription.
Michael, business class, Esty. Will you be up there by yourself?